world we get here? How in the world we get here? Toastmaster Ibrahim. All the best.
40% of the people are living in poverty. 20% of the people are living in extreme poverty, living with under $4 a day. Now, when you hear these figures, you think of impoverished countries in Africa, maybe in Asia, or in Latin America. But the reality is, these numbers are from the Lebanese Ministry of Social Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Mercurians, Lebanon and its economy have fallen into a ditch that they may never be able to recover from. And as we see the dollar rate exceed 9,000 Lebanese liras, as the Agence France-Presse shows us images of impoverished citizens who cannot fill up their fridges with the food they need to survive, we need to ask ourselves, as Lebanese, how in the world did we get there? Now, to be real here, politics and ideology are essential in discussing this topic. However, this is not in the scope of Toastmasters. So I'm going to be taking a socio-economic approach, looking back at history, as I hope that this speech where we search for answers is, despite it being somber, a sobering look at how we ended up where we are. So ladies and gentlemen, and especially the Lebanese of us, put on your seatbelts. This is going to be a tough one. Now, our investigation starts in the 17th century, back in the days of Amir Fakhreddin II. Now, Fawaz Trabulsi, author of the seminal work, The History of Modern Lebanon, tells us of how Amir Fakhreddin introduced silk into the Lebanese economy. The production and the manufacturing of raw silk and silk dresses would end up driving the economy of Mount Lebanon within the Ottoman Empire for over 300 years. Add to that a vibrant agricultural sector producing cereals, livestock, and tobacco, and an industrial sector that at its height in the 1940s had just two of its sectors, which were cotton spinning and tannery, surpassing the income rate of tourism by 2.5 times. And we see that us Lebanese, we had a vibrant agricultural and industrial production sector. So what went wrong? The answer is simple: the overgrowth of the tertiary economies. You see, after the Second World War, Lebanon decided to become an intermediary between East and West. We would connect our the oil economies in the Arab world with the Western world, Europe, the US. And our leaders, they saw profit, they saw dollar signs. So the tertiary economy started to grow. Real estate, tourism, trade, banking. But what happened to the production economies? Well, they were subverted and subjected to the whims and desires of the ruling oligarchy at the expense of the needs of the people. Add to that the large amount of importing that took place and how our industrialists and farmers had to produce for export, and any hope of a self-sustaining economy went down the drain. Now, talking about self-sustainability is important, but it is not enough. So let's fast forward a bit to the 1990s. We had just gotten out of a horrible civil war, and the government wanted to rebuild. It wanted to send a signal of confidence both to its people and to its investors. And it wanted to stop currency speculation, a speculation which Hans Baumann, the writer of the book Citizen Hariri, described as a national sport that benefited the cartels that encouraged it, but wiped out the savings of the normal people. Just like what's happening right now. So with all of that in mind, the government decided, hey, let's anchor the Lebanese lira to the US dollars. And so they did, at a value of 1,500 Lebanese liras to the dollar. the well-known account, the official account. What ended up happening is the following. The economy stabilized, but the economy stabilized, but the inflation, but the interest rates got up, skyrocketed, and so did our debt. After that, our government deciding to be rulers, they would decide our government would be used as a clientelist vehicle. That would be basically used to curry favor, it would be used to buy votes. And meanwhile, our banks, they decided, hey, lots of interest rate, lots of money, let's lend the government. All of that mismanagement of our funds came to bite us in the behind. So we've talked about self-sustainability, we've talked about mismanagement of funds, but we can talk about the rules all we want. If we do not talk about what we did wrong, we'd be missing the point of this. We've drunk in our own Kool-Aid, ladies and gentlemen. We like to think of ourselves as the seafaring, open, unbelievably intelligent and tolerant people who are independent. But rest assured, we are not. As Kamal Salibi's book, A House of Many Mansions, very lucidly describes, we have always been at an identity crisis, a sectarian identity crisis, to be exact, between a group of people that views Lebanon as a piece of the West in the Middle East, and a group of people who see it as inseparable from its Arab counterparts. And as much as we like to think of ourselves as tolerant and open, well, we're not. We're actually dependent, intolerant people who depend on both internal and external actors and end up just fighting over nonsense rather than stimulating our brains in order to do anything. So yeah, we've messed up with our economy. Now I know my time is up, but I need to get this message out of the way a little bit. To be honest, guys, I don't know where we're going. As you can see, my voice is somber. And that's because I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken at seeing our generations work, our futures, gone to waste. I'm worried about my mother who's reaching her old age, and I'm worried that she might not be able to have a proper life after working so hard to make sure that my brothers and I and my sister were able to have a proper life. And I'm worried about my fellow countrymen. I'm preparing for immigration. I'm hoping for immigration. I want to get out of here, to be honest. But even with all of that, somber outlook for the future, even in those darkest times, the strongest wills prevail. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our last chance. It is put up or shut up time. And I am coming closer and closer to the screen because this is important. It is now or never. Now's our chance to learn from our mistakes. Now is our chance for us to try and save this country, to make sure we never repeat our mistakes. And I hope that this speech is a catalyst. I hope that this is just one small contribution that could push me and push you into action. Mr. Toastmaster,